So Claire is the Deputy Director of Education for a trust in the southwest of England, and she leads on diversity, equity and inclusion. Really fantastic position there and really important role. Claire is also a trustee for the Maternity Teacher, Paternity Teacher project, and also co-founder of the Bristol Queer Teachers. How do you find the time for all of that, Claire? I do not know, but amazing job you're doing. But I'm going to now leave you to it, and good luck, and thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming along, and thanks, Ben, for asking me to speak. I'm going to be talking about authentic leadership. Can be a bit of an overused word sometimes, but hopefully you'll see why I've chosen that title when I talk you through my journey. And before I start, in the interests of authenticity, I'm going to give you a couple of disclaimers. I've got lots of notes, and I've got my timer because I've got ADHD. So if I don't stick to my notes, if I don't have my timer, then I'm liable just to ramble about things unrelated to what I'm supposed to be talking about for quite a while. So I'm going to use those. And hopefully that makes those of you who also need similar prompts when you're speaking to feel a little bit less nervous about doing so. So I'm starting my timer. I'm going to stick to time. So the other disclaimer before I start is that there is my 6-year-old son upstairs. He's incredibly happy right now because he's being allowed to watch YouTube, which he's not normally allowed to do on a school night. But he may come down and interrupt me at some point, but that's life. And I can model what being a parent teacher is all about. So Nikki told you a little bit in the introduction, but I'm Claire and I work for a multi-academy trust in Bristol. I'm one of the Deputy Directors of Education, and my remit is diversity, equity and inclusion, which also covers special educational needs and disabilities. I work across 9 schools, primary, secondary and special, supporting SENCOs and senior leadership teams with their work. I lead training, I write policy, I support with difficult issues, and I engage with a wide variety of stakeholders. I've worked in primary, secondary, post-16 and special. I've got a master's in education, the National Award for SEND coordination, and I facilitate the National Professional Qualification for Leading Behaviour and Culture. Alongside this, I'm a trustee of 2 charities. One is a small theatre company local to me, and the other is the Maternity Teacher, Paternity Teacher project, whose goal is to support, empower and connect those on parental leave. I've written several book contributions for the MTPT project that I just mentioned, Diverse Educators and Women Ed. I've presented at conferences, worked on amazing projects, and I'm just about to start a fellowship in reparative education at the University of Oxford. Impressive, right? Now, bear with me. There's a good reason for me reeling off this list of things about myself, beyond just trying to make myself look good. It's because I'm going to tell you about 2008 me, and I want you to see the difference. 2008 me was an NQT and newly qualified teacher with a very difficult Year 5 class. I was trying hard. I was trying really, really hard. And I'm not saying that you have everything figured out in your first year of teaching, but for me, it just felt like something wasn't clicking. How could I be putting in so much effort and not succeeding? And when I say not succeeding, I'm not just saying that. Just before Christmas that year, I had an observation which was judged unsatisfactory. Even worse than that, a deputy head who I really admired came to see me teach and later told me that she wasn't sure I'd be able to succeed as a teacher because she saw things wrong that she didn't feel I'd be able to change. Obviously, things have changed since then. It hasn't been a totally smooth upward slope. I've cried at work many times. I've missed out on internal promotions given to colleagues with less experience than me. And more than once, I've not got a job that I thought was perfect for me. But here I am, and not only am I successful, I'm also really happy. And I put that down to starting to do things my way. 2008 me was failing by trying to be exactly like my mentor in the next classroom. She was great, but she wasn't like me, and I couldn't succeed by being like her and doing things her way. Being authentic's been the key to getting where I am, so I want to pass on a few pieces of advice. The first thing is focus on what you love. So I worked out early on that I loved working in Send, and I didn't stop doing all of my other work, but I really prioritised that. I let people know that was my interest and what I wanted to do. Over time, I was given more responsibility in that area and I made a good impression. So much so that I ended up working closely with the deputy head I mentioned earlier, and she claims she doesn't remember that comment. Secondly, being vulnerable gives you credibility. I spent a long time separating work and my personal life, and over time it just got harder to do that. It wasn't that the two mixed, but when working on certain equalities issues, it felt bizarre to be acting like a concerned outsider or an interested ally. Once I shared the real me with my colleagues, it allowed me to lead authentically. It's harder for people to ignore requests for more LGBTQ+ inclusive parental leave policies when you're telling them it affects your family. And I've been able to improve awareness of reasonable adjustments for neurodivergent staff by advocating for my own needs. And finally, create your own networks. Most of the opportunities I mentioned at the start came about through people I've met at conferences, events, and through networks I'm a part of. When people meet you and get to know you, the real you, they remember you and think of you when they're asked if you know of anyone who might be interested. So build up those networks. That's how you get the opportunities you really want. I'm really lucky that I'm in a part of my career where I've managed to combine my interests and those professional interests and the everyday job. And, you know, that is absolutely living the dream. It's fantastic, difficult sometimes, but it'd be great to share some advice around that. So the last reason for reeling off that massive list at the start of this talk, if any of those things are things you're interested in, then I'm here for advice. You can look me up on LinkedIn or send a message on Twitter. I refuse to call it the other name, and I'd be happy to help. So authentic leadership is about helping others succeed too. So it'd be really great to do that for you. Thanks for listening.
Wow. Well, when you talk about authentic leadership, Claire, it is not an overused word within your experience. And it's clear that you have experienced the trials and tribulations of education. And you know what? You've shown through your journey how resilient you are and how driven you are. And that approach, that empathetic approach, which allows you to connect with not just your students, but the staff around you, and especially the role you do. And it's allowed you to relate to what's going on. That's really important. And it's the how people buy into you, isn't it? And it's clearly from that you've been able to build to what you achieve. So thank you for sharing your story and your journey, and I'm hoping to hear more about it later on.
Thank you.